what's happening on our borders. America is in absolute chaos. The left is trying to inflict, I believe, chaos upon us, kind of overwhelm the system, if you will, in order to gain control. This is why the left does so many things that they do, whether that's the mask mandates, whether it's a lot of this encouraging businesses to invoke these vaccine mandates. And we'll get into that because there's new data showing that the breakthrough infections are rising, or so-called quote-unquote breakthrough infections are rising amongst the fully vaccinated. We even have Oregon Governor Kate Brown that has announced an outdoor mask mandate. So if you don't think we're in silly season, you're absolutely wrong. We are there. All of this, in my opinion, is geared towards 2020. Geared towards 2022. The left has nothing. They absolutely have nothing. I mean, Afghanistan is a total debacle. God forbid. I'm afraid that we might see American hostages taken if this situation isn't remedied quick, fast, and in a hurry. By the way, at the top of the second hour, we're going to have Chad Robichaud with us. He's with SaveOurAllies.org. So he's been a Department of Defense contractor. He's going to bring us some inside info, if you will, on what's happening in Afghanistan. So I look forward to that. But getting back to this issue with the border, you guys may ever remember, and this is so funny because I honestly tried to talk about this subject, and Sean and William can verify, for probably a week or two, and just the news kept hitting where I couldn't get to it. But the border is important. As bad as Afghanistan is, we should not keep our eyes off of Afghanistan. We should continue to put pressure on our senators and our congressmen to step up and do something and put some pressure on the Biden administration when it comes to Afghanistan. But we also have to be able to watch the left hand of the Democrats. So here we are in Afghanistan. Very important story. We're going to touch on it later. We're not going away from that. But also the border. We still have a huge border crisis, and this definitely strikes a blow. Now, unfortunately, there have been so many illegal aliens that have entered into our country that are now roaming our country, some with COVID, that I think, the Democrats are trying to put our country in peril. Democrats want this new, what I call the new Negro vote, if you will. They want They want a voting bloc that will never walk away from them, a voting bloc that they can keep in complete and utter poverty. That's their goal. The Democrats have no desire for people to be successful. In fact, Democrats are successful when you're unsuccessful. I want to make sure you hear that. Democrats are successful when you're unsuccessful. That's what they do. That's what the Democrat Party is about. If they can keep you on the plantation, if they can keep you, if they can keep you in the underclass, if they can keep this permanent underclass going, they sustain power. That's what they want. They don't care about these people. They don't care about you. The left cares about power. The left cares about power. So I was so glad to see that one judge stood up to this. Thank God. And then the Supreme Court of the United States has rejected the Biden plea to halt Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. And it's pretty amazing because some of the people from Afghanistan, I've seen headlines where some people are being flown to, I believe, Colombia, Venezuela, and I'll check on that. I need to double check that because I just flipped through some headlines real quick. And but nonetheless, imagine who could come through the border. So I'm glad this will slow the problem at the border, assuming that the Biden administration will respect the rule of law. Obviously, they haven't so far. We'll see if this will put a dent in this situation. I'm somewhat hopeful that it does, even though they've inflicted plenty of damage within the United States. This is very important, too. Here's what was happening. Before this occurred, I want to just take you back. There was a Texas border town that was making deals with the Biden administration to ship illegals into big cities. And this was weeks ago. This article is from a couple of weeks ago. But Laredo, Texas reached an agreement. Now, this was a couple Wednesdays back to settle its lawsuit against the Biden Department of Homeland Security for transporting illegal immigrants from the Rio Grande Valley sector into the border city. Now these individuals are being transported instead to Austin, to Dallas, to Houston after they are released by Border Patrol. So there's no doubt in my mind that in part this is perhaps what inspired this judge to act. The article goes on to say that Laredo Mayor Pete Sands, I believe is his name, who's a Democrat, by the way, and who was on camera. He literally, if I recall correctly, did a YouTube video asking the Biden administration to do something about this border crisis. So this was a Democrat that was sensible because he lives in a border town and their resources were being totally wiped out. So this Laredo Mayor Pete Sands, again, a Democrat, said Border Patrol isn't testing the people that it's releasing for COVID before they are bust out under this new agreement. The city is not required to test them, so they don't have to provide care. The mayor of Laredo said that once you test illegals for COVID, you had to keep them. So he didn't want to test them because they were so overwhelmed in Laredo that if they tested them, the Biden administration would make them stay. So he's like, my hands are full. Our resources are absolutely wiped out. They've got to go. They've got to go. So this is a blow to the Biden, Harris, Schumer, Pelosi neo-slave trade, because indeed, I believe this is what it is. The Democrats want a permanent underclass. It is as simple as that. They want a permanent underclass, and whatever they have to do in order to solidify that permanent underclass, they will continue to do so because these people are strictly after power. And if they can overwhelm the system and potentially place illegal aliens into districts, counties, cities, wherever, where they ultimately overtake the votes of conservative Americans, patriot Americans, the Democrats will have us exactly where they want us. Also, there were stash houses. You guys may recall me talking about this, where 5,000 illegal aliens a couple weeks ago were discovered in stash houses around Laredo, Texas. So the problem is out of control. This ruling by the Supreme Court of the United States will hopefully put a dent in that. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back on the other side.